Yep.
Yeah, I was blown away by his stage presence and the amount of energy that he had, and the way that he commanded that crowd. Holy crap. That is a lot of people. You don't really see that for Indian music concerts, except for maybe if you count like Ravi Shankar being at Woodstock or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably as big as it gets.
Yeah, he's a guy who on the stage he was he was a showman and he made a show. It was definitely a good, cool to see, and the singing is just amazing, and just the his overall musicality, right?
Yeah.
He played piano. Yeah, I when I was a kid, I remember my dad playing. He had this pretty nice stereo system for, not crazy expensive, but for us it was one of the nicest things in the house, right? That he liked to listen to music, and he played the record at Night at the Opera by Queen.
Hmm.
Have you heard that one?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one I remember. I think it was a Prophet song specifically with the
Mhm.
vocal section in the middle. Yeah, that album pretty much blew me away. That's one of the big music moments I remember as a kid, going, "Wow, this stuff can be pretty cool."
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned the mandolin. One thing I do for the little kids classes, like pre-K and early elementary in music, I'll bring a mystery instrument in, and I bring the mandolin in, which is hanging up over here,
Mm.
and I can play okay, right? I can play some songs on it, but I actually show them a video, and I pick two people. Right, I usually pick one like phenom bluegrass mandolin player, like maybe who's a guy who does
Chris Thiele.
yeah, like him, a guy like him, right? I think it is Chris. That's the one I use, or David Grisman. I've used.
Mm.
I play them that one, and the second one I play is Srinivas. Use Srinivas.
That's
I
great.
said, look at how awesome these two can play it totally differently. They can get these two totally different sounds out of this thing.
Yeah.
So, and Srinivas with the sliding technique, it just blows me away.
Hmm. They end up using a lot of coconut oil to use as a lubrication for being able to slide along the strings a little bit more easily.
Yeah,
You
that's
might
cool.
have seen me do that myself, even with the violin, because there's so much more sliding around. Probably kind of uh, like probably really looked down upon if you're coming from a Western classical violin background, um, like from an orchestra or something like
Yeah.
that. But with with the amount of sliding around that you do on the strings in Indian classical violin, it helps to have a little bit of oil for
Yeah.
the sliding to happen more freely.
Well, I know when I was playing that music, when I started trying to learn that some of that sliding technique, there's a guitar product called Finger Ease. They spray it
Mm,
on. It's similar. It makes them really slippery, but
sure.
I might try that coconut oil.
Yeah, it just adds an Indian touch to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and some powder and stuff. And yeah, we saw. I saw somebody, and he had a ritual. Like he was a sitar player. He's a famous guy. I can't remember his name now, but yeah, he had a whole ritual between every song. He had the powder and the nails, and he went through like 2 or 3 minutes of getting everything just right. You know,
Hmm.
it's part of the show too. It builds suspense.
Yeah.
Interesting about that, because you need to slide around. That's kind of a product of the music, but also like one of the reasons you tune the violin differently than Western music. Can you talk about that just for a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So when you learn Indian classical music compositions, you don't necessarily learn them in a particular key, like you would with any song that you might hear on the radio, or maybe a Western classical composition, like something in E minor. I barely know anything about Western classical
Yeah.
music, so I wouldn't even be able to pull one off the top of my head. But you hear something that's in E minor or F sharp major. You don't really get that with Indian classical music. You learn the composition, the melody for for the piece that you're trying to perform in a given key that just happens to be comfortable to learn at the time that when you're being taught that composition. Um, and when you perform it, you basically perform it in the key that is the most comfortable for everybody on stage with you. And so when I play music with Sumkali, it's always in the key of C for the most part. And I have my violin tuned to make it easy for me to play songs in the key of C without having to transpose them all across the fingerboard, where I would have the most difficult time to try to do that, especially if I was to try to do that live. So my strings going from low to high are currently tuned to G, C, G, C, and I guess it's called open fifths tuning.
Yep.
It just helps me get the right um, octaves, set of octaves that I want to be able to play, whether it's improvising or just being able to fit the notes of the composition itself. And I don't have to think about like playing that song in the key of D in a different way. If we were to for some reason perform that same song in the key of D, then I can just tune my strings up and it would just go a full step up for each string. And now I don't have to change the way that my fingers fall on any part of the song. I just have to play the same thing, but the strings are tuned differently.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I have a student, I did piano lesson today online, and their piano, there's a little tune button in the back, and it's like a
Mm,
not a half step, but in between a half step and a quarter step off.
mm,
And then when we plug into Soundtrap and we use it online, like when she's playing by herself, it's fine, right? It doesn't match mine, but we're in different rooms. We're not playing at the same time.
mm.
When she plays with Soundtrap, which is tuned, it does it through MIDI, so it's a correct key. It's that little
Oh yeah.
microcent off. So the same thing. You can tune that tune thing any way you want, but you can still play the tune it the same way every time. If
Hmm.
you can change that button,
Yeah.
it's like a transpose.
Yeah, it's like having a capo for the violin, without having to lose any space on the strings themselves. Of course, there's going to be optimal range. You don't want to go too high or too low on the tension for your strings. It's either going to break your strings, which sucks, or not be tight enough where you just won't get enough of a solid enough foundation. The notes just won't be there for you to hit properly.
Yeah, they kind of wobble. They
Yeah.
don't want to stay in the right spot. I'm gonna take one step back when we're talking about melody.
Sure.
And the one thing I want to confirm myself is so talking to like Bidisha is one I did an interview with and about ragas. Um, is the raga system in South and North India? Is this? I mean, I know they have different names, but are
Mhm.
they similar in the way that they describe? Like they are suited for a mood or a time of day or time of
Yeah,
morning? You know, they're similar.
good question. I think Hindustani music or North Indian classical music is is more commonly described for a particular mood. So that you would more likely have a particular rag, as they call it in North Indian music, um, fall in for a particular time of the day, or like, oh, this is an evening rag, or this is the morning rag. But you don't commonly hear that in Carnatic music, um, as much, but you do typically have a way that you want to structure your concert, for whatever part of the day it is that you go on a journey. So you bring the audience with you on this journey from the start to the finish, which sometimes the concert can be like 3.5, 4 hours, 4.5 hours long. So you want to have a good variety of things that sound happy, sad, angry, fast, slow, somber, all sorts of things. So that you can evoke any kind of emotion that you like based on the raga or the scale that you choose. And that kind of takes you along with the intent of the original composer of the music itself. So even though it may not necessarily be meant to be played at a particular time of day, you can use it as the right spot in any part of your concert.